What is up, everybody, and welcome to Celtics Talk Weekly Postgame Live. I'm your host, Seamus Zarlingo. Next to me tonight, alongside of me, Ian and Angelo, and right down below here, our buddy Franco, coming in here after a Celtics victory, 13-0 now on the parquet floor. The Celtics are after a 128 to 111 win over the Orlando Magic. Guys, it finally happened. It finally happened. The Boston Celtics have defeated the Orlando Magic. Who knew? Banner 18, here it comes. It's right there. The Orlando Magic. The Boston Celtics have not been able to beat the Orlando Magic in what feels like forever now. And coming into this two-game set, it felt like maybe the home record might have been in jeopardy just a little bit. However, tonight we see the Boston Celtics are able to be resilient even without a lot of their lineup too in beating the Magic 128 to 111. But first, we're going to go to you, Ian, and then we're going to go to Franco. Your guys' initial thoughts on tonight's Celtics win.
I honestly feel like Patrick Beverley right now when he won the play-in game with the Timberwolves. That's kind of my mood right now. Yeah, they beat the Orlando Magic. Honestly, that's pretty much the greatest accomplishment the Celtics have ever achieved. But honestly, this was a great game. This was a huge game from the bench. You know, this is like the whole question mark thing that we had in the beginning of the season. We're like, oh, will the bench hold up if someone goes down? Are the Celtics going to be able to handle it? We had two of the top six players were out tonight with Horford and Porzingis, as well as the other center on the roster and Luke Cornett being out as well. And then Delano Banton went out, and Jaylen Brown was probable the whole time before the game. So just a whole lot of stuff, and it didn't matter. Celtics went out there. They rolled out Lamar Stevens at center. He absolutely cooked, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way that this game ended up turning out.
This post-in-season tournament Celtics is looking really good since they came out of the break. I mean, tonight they were shorthanded with most of their centers out. Neemias Queta usually isn't dressed for these games, and we got to see him and Lamar Stevens and O'Shea Brissett step up in a huge way tonight. Lamar Stevens started tonight at center, which is usually not something you see at the Celtics, but he contributed with 8 points and was just a hustle player out there. You saw him lay out on the court a couple times for a couple of loose balls. And the rotation players were really just taking full advantage of the minutes that they were given. Like Peyton Pritchard came in, and usually we got to see what we did during the preseason P, if you will. I mean, he was 7 for 10 from the field, 6 for 7 from the three-pointer, 21 points during the game, and also had 5 assists. That's something that we really need from this team as we go down the stretch, and that kind of solves that answer. If he can continue to be that consistent throughout the playoffs, that's what the team has been looking for, and that might solve the team from not looking via trade. And the Orlando Magic have been a team the past 4 times we've played us who have really put up a fight, a young, aspiring team. And the fact that we were able to beat them with outrunning them and keeping our foot on the gas, which they are known for doing, and what has been known as the Celtics pretty much kryptonite during this beginning of the season. Hard hustling teams, if you out hustle the Celtics, you're going to beat them. And I'm just really excited to see the fact that they were able to get everyone who is dressed on the court tonight, and they all contributed.
This to me was a pure affirmation win for the Celtics. You look at their history this season, the team is now 19-5. I don't think we're giving this enough credit, guys. 19-5 on the season. One of those losses came at the hands of the Charlotte Hornets on a back-to-back where Miles Bridges hit a game winner in our face. And we see an Orlando loss in there, an Indiana loss, Philadelphia loss. Two of those losses we've already avenged. Philadelphia, we went back into Philly the next week. We avenged that loss. The Orlando loss earlier this season in Orlando, of course, that did come on the road in an in-season tournament game. We avenge it here tonight, and it feels as if the Celtics, although they're 18-5, some of their losses, they're all 5 of their losses in Minnesota, we'll see later on down the line. But it kind of looks as if maybe the Celtics could be perfect at this point. And how they're playing right now, the basketball they're playing right now, I believe this win tonight only affirmed everything we've been seeing as of late from the team, and that is consistent progression forward on both ends of the floor, defensively and offensively, even without some key players tonight, right? Porzingis, not in the lineup. Al Horford, out of the lineup tonight. Delano Ben, not really a key player, but he doesn't go tonight. Cornette out for the second straight game. And we should get to some of these injuries later and talk about some of these players a lot more in depth and what their injuries could mean moving forward. However, we see now with the time being this game in particular for the Celtics, Jaylen Brown said it after the game, is the next man up mentality. And I believe that what the Celtics have been building off of as of late, the whole team has been able to feed off of that, and especially some of the starters who have been a part of the consistent progression forward, especially on the offensive end of the floor. It really feels for the Celtics right now, they're just getting easy offensive opportunities and easy looks just from simply attacking the basket more and more and more and knowing exactly what they're going to do offensively, passing it around the key on the perimeter. They always look like they know exactly what they're getting ready to do with the ball, whether they're going to pass it or shoot it. That quick decision making and that the decisiveness from the team, that's really something elite about the Celtics ball club at the end of the day. And I thought we saw a lot of that tonight with even the second string guys coming into the lineup, and they were able to feed off of what the Celtics have been able to build from a cohesive standpoint. And you look at tonight's lead tracker for the Celtics, we always like to look at the game flow at the beginning of the show because let's face it, guys, this is really the story of the game when we look at the lead tracker. Didn't look too great for the Celtics early on. Down 7 early in the first quarter, not so great. However, the end of the first, the Celtics come back. They end up winning the quarter 30-24. There's a little moment where it's a 1-point game in the second quarter. It was 37-36. However, from that point on, the Celtics went on a 27-15 run going into halftime, giving them a sizable halftime lead in which they were able to surmount more points on in the third quarter. You see a complete opposite trend from where they were when they faced the Magic the last time out. And then, of course, the fourth quarter, too, the Celtics just sustaining themselves and sustaining that lead all the way down to the end of the game. But, Ian, we'll start with you here on the lead tracker. What stands out to you about tonight's game flow, and what did you see the Celtics do well throughout this game?
I'm not going to lie to you. The thing that stands out to me the most is that third quarter. I mean, we've talked about the problems the Celtics have had in the third quarter for what seems like forever now. And when they played the third quarter tonight, they went out there and they took care of business. This is exactly what you want to see out of a team like the Celtics when you have a big lead going into halftime. Now, I don't know if it was a big lead per se, but I think it was a double-digit lead at halftime. But still, it's one of those things where it's like, are the Celtics going to be able to hold this lead? Is Orlando going to make a comeback? The answer to that question was no, as the Celtics were able to hang on. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown had a big night, and it's pretty much all you can ask for.
Yeah, and you, Franco, now, what are your thoughts here on this lead tracker, and what did you think? I'm going to just ask you the same question. What did you think the Celtics did well throughout this game tonight against the Magic?
So we were really put at a disadvantage during the going into the game, being down both of our starting centers. So the fact that they were able to run a smaller ball, I feel like kind of made it better, gave them a better chance of beating a team like the Orlando Magic, running a fast pace, high intensity defense. And the fact that they were able to rack up 14 steals tonight and 7 blocks says a lot about the turnovers. And we obviously saw what they were able to do in transition with Jaylen Brown getting 3 monstrous dunks. And Jaylen Brown really picked up in the first quarter and brought that Orlando lead down. When halfway through the first quarter, I thought it was going to be another classic Orlando game, and I was hoping that it wasn't going to be 5 in a row, but Jaylen Brown was able to be that, take away that energy from him, almost basically ended Anthony Black's career. Rookie year, it's a terrible thing to see happen. And Jason Tatum was also consistent. He was able to get to the paint. When they were getting to the paint, I mean, from the looks of it, they shot 40% from the three-pointer as a whole, but Peyton Pritchard really carried a load of that with 6 of 7 from the field. So that stat number is pretty deceiving. But when they were attacking the paint and assisting and setting up those cuts, Neemias Queta finishing at the rack a couple times was huge. And that's when this team's playing its best ball, is when they start from the inside and then work their way out.
Yeah, tonight's Celtics victory, coming pretty much at a dominant tilt for the team. You see throughout that game flow there, and I think you mentioned it right there in your in your speech there, Franco, where the Celtics in transition, they were able to get ahead of the Magic, and we saw the last time the Celtics were out in Orlando against the Magic, that is something that really bit them, and they could not get over the hump in that regard. And that's really in that third quarter against the Magic down in Orlando. That was the really one disastrous third quarter we point at for this season and go, that may have been one of the low points for our third quarter woes of the season. And in that third quarter, we saw the Orlando Magic. They're a bigger team than us. They're a more physical team than us, and they're a faster team than us. They ran up and down the floor. They got points in the paint, and they were just able to play with a better intensity, more energy than us as well. So tonight, you see 18-6 in transition, and the Celtics being able to surmount a lead and add on to it by flipping the script from the last game we saw. It was the Celtics this time around at home bringing the energy, bringing the intensity, being the more physical team, even with less bodies out there. And you definitely, as a Celtics fan and even as a regular NBA fan around the league, not you gotta be impressed by this Celtics performance. I was gonna say, not too many fans around the NBA are gonna be just outright impressed by the Celtics every single night, but you got to be a little bit optimistic about this Celtics team thus far and where they're going. But a player I want to bring up, and this player was fantastic tonight, and we all have to be a little bit more optimistic about his performance relative to where some of his past performances have laid. However, Peyton Pritchard comes into tonight and he wins player of the game. Peyton Pritchard, 21 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists in 28 minutes on the night for Peyton Pritchard. 7 of 10 from the floor, 6 of 7 from 3. Franco also mentioned there. Peyton Pritchard was absolutely phenomenal tonight in his role, and this was part of the next man up mentality. The minutes were going to be distributed somewhere, and we saw Lamar Stevens, O'Shea Brissett get a run. Finally, I must add, those guys, we want to see them play more often. However, Peyton Pritchard, he's a normal rotation guy. We do see him attain minutes on a night-to-night basis, and we see he does struggle on a couple of nights, right? Last night against the Cleveland Cavaliers, he had an 0 of 1 shooting line last night in 14 minutes. Tonight comes out 7 of 10 in 28 minutes, 21 points, and it's a much different atmosphere, environment, feel when Pritchard, his minutes are increased as they were tonight. But Peyton Pritchard, we're not going to see a ton of these performances out of Pritchard, because we all know that 28 minutes is just not going to happen for Pritchard on a nightly basis with the normal Celtics rotation. But on a night where other guys, Banton, Cornette, Porzingis, Horford, they're all out of the lineup, those minutes go somewhere else, and they might not always go to the position players out of the lineup. Some of them may be distributed to other players already in the rotation. And Peyton Pritchard, he was one of those players tonight. In the extra minutes, he was able to take hold of those minutes and do well with them. But Ian, we'll start with you on Peyton Pritchard. What did you see Peyton Pritchard do well tonight, and what impressed you the most about Peyton Pritchard's performance against the Orlando Magic?
I think the fact that Peyton Pritchard finally ran with his opportunity. I mean, this is the first. Well, I mean, this isn't the first time this season that he's had a good game, but this felt like the first time this season that we saw, the Peyton Pritchard that we saw in the preseason. This was just a huge night from him. The 6 of 7 from 3 is probably the thing that stands out the most. I mean, he was hitting every single shot that came to him. He was just standing in the corner and he was hitting everything. Between him and Sam Hauser, it was insane. But Peyton Pritchard, I don't know. It's so weird to think about, because we've been saying like, oh, he's got to be better, got to be better, got to be better. He was better. He took everything that people have been talking, and he showed why he deserves minutes on this team.
Yeah,
And you, Franco, on tonight's Peyton Pritchard's performance.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of hit on it earlier before. What I would love to see from Peyton Pritchard is we've seen what he is capable of. We've seen him during the preseason. We've seen him during games where a few players are out. Really step up when those minutes are given to him. What we need to see more from him is what can he give this type of volume of shooting on a night where he is just another guy in the rotation with getting 15 to 10 minutes a night. But this is really him taking over a game, and that they really needed it. And when it comes down to it, it wasn't really. It's kind of weird that he was the one to pick up on scoring tonight, because the need was on the centers, but it was really a major factor because Jesus. I just really like that he played with geez. Why am I stumbling on my words right now? Well, I think he just played well with the bench, because they picked up the intensity on the offensive side with more of a high-paced offense.
Peyton Pritchard's performance tonight, you want to see this type of energy from him every single night. And the shot making, whether he's taking 7 3-point attempts or taking 2 3-point attempts, and obviously the rhythm is a lot different in taking 7 or 2 attempts. And we like to say what we say about Peyton Pritchard on some nights when his stat line doesn't look like it did tonight. However, you want to see him bringing that energy on both ends of the floor, because talk about his size is always going to be a limitation within his game. But if he can bring that energy defensively like he did tonight and still make shots on the other end of the floor, which is the main portion of his game with the Celtics, that's the perfect role that we want to see Peyton Pritchard in. And tonight he was our player of the game. Quite, I don't want to say unexpected performance from Pritchard, but I don't think many of us thought he was going to walk away with player of the game tonight against an Orlando Magic team with a roster half full of 7-foot players, 6'10" players. Maybe in future NBA settings, we'll see rosters of all 7-foot players, but you never know. The Orlando Magic, they're tilting on that right now, and Peyton Pritchard comes out with the player of the game. However, there's another player on the Celtics roster who can walk away with player of the game legitimately every single night, and I believe he walked away with player of the game last night. Could have done the same tonight. He actually scored more points tonight. Jason Tatum, 30 points tonight for Jason Tatum, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, only 2 turnovers. We always like to look at those turnovers, especially with the Jays. Only 2 turnovers for Jason Tatum, 2 of 9 from 3. But 11 of 22 overall, which is great. But you look at this and go, ready? We look at this again. 2 of 9, 11 of 22 overall. He's what? 9 of 11. He is 9 of 11, folks. 9 of 13, rather. Sorry, 9 of 13 from the floor from 2. 2 of 9 from 3 for Tatum. A stellar performance from Tatum, that is, at the end of the night, despite the 2 of 9. But we talked about this with Tatum. We'll nitpick just a little bit here. Those 9 3-point attempts, maybe if 2 of those go towards the rim, maybe this is a 34-point performance. Maybe this is, I'm just saying, Jason Tatum, this is a great performance from Tatum. That's what I'll leave it at. But I feel as if there are always performances with Tatum where they could just be a little bit better, right? A little bit better.
I will say a couple of those threes were grenades where it was like at the end of the shot clock and he just had to throw it up. Like he did have a couple of those, so like it was maybe like probably like 2 for 7 from 3 if we really think about it, but still. And like I don't know, didn't we talk about this the first Cleveland post-game show? We were like, I mean, if Jason Tatum is one of the best players at getting to the rim in the NBA, yet he still consistently shoots 9 3-pointers a game. And it's great when they go in, but there have been a lot of times, and especially this season, where they haven't gone in at a consistent enough clip that you would like. But, I mean, it's the law of averages, really. I think eventually they'll start hitting, and then once they start hitting, we're all going to be like, oh, look at that. What were we talking about? And, it doesn't really matter now, does it? And which in reality is true, but I'm just hoping, and I mean, I'm not going to nitpick. I mean, really, he still had 30 points. 30 points is 30 points, whatever. It doesn't really matter how else you say it. It doesn't really matter how you got it. He got it. And he was dominant in stretches of this game that, yes, you would like to see a little more of, but I mean, if those threes are falling, you could probably see a 50-point game out of him. So, I don't know. I'm not really going to nitpick it anymore. It just kind of feels like it just is what it is. So, you're just going to have to live with the 9 3-point attempts every single night. And hopefully, like, 5 of them go in instead of, like, 2 of them. But, what are you going to do? He's still great at getting to the rim, though, which is super good. Super good for him, though. He's improved a lot in that area.
It's going to be really interesting to see who's going to pick up the ball more. I mean, Jaylen Brown during the first quarter, it seemed like he was running the ball down the court and was initiating the Celtics offense. And when it came down to shooting, I felt like Jason Tatum was kind of an off-ball presence in his scoring tonight, and he had a lot of shots that were ISO shots that missed from three-pointer, but I feel like when he started to work the ball down low and was getting fed the ball, that's when he's hitting it at his highest clip.
Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, both of those guys. I mean, Jason Tatum specifically, though, we're going to talk about him first. His ability to get downhill and go to the rim. This is the only reason we talk about the three-pointers, because, Ian, you mentioned it. When those three-pointers are going in, those are the 50-point nights. And it's just something they were going to have to live with, as Jason Tatum's going to take those 3-point attempts, because in the Celtics offense, they're going to be given to him, and he is going to be inclined to take a couple of attempts when he wants to, especially off the dribble, because he's Jason Tatum, folks. He's Jason effing Tatum. He's an All NBA first team member. I mean, I feel like we still sometimes treat him
Top
like a
five.
rookie or a second year guy. 2018-19, we were just talking about it before coming into this post game. Jason Tatum, that second year was a sophomore slump all the way through. We didn't even think he was going to be a Robert Covington type of player, and then he turned into who he is today. And that is somebody who can take his own shots from beyond the 3-point arc in isolation, and them not be completely terrible attempts. But his ability to get downhill and get to the rack, it's completely changing the complexity of the Celtics offense. Him and Jaylen Brown being able to pick their spots in that regard, I think they've been able to be much better in that aspect of the game as of late than they were at the beginning of the season. And talked about this on post game last night, where that just kind of comes with the season progressing as more games come to this team, and of course as the team plays together more often. Now I know some key players were out tonight, but as guys play together more and more, you're going to see guys be more fluid together. And Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and we're talking about Jason Tatum individually right now, he is somebody who is picking his spots more comfortably within this new Celtics offense and this new Celtics team. And Jason Tatum's performance tonight and yesterday against the Cavs, against the Magic, I mean, this is just, it feels like light work for Jason Tatum. It just feels like he's supposed to come in and do this, and it's just supposed to be kumbaya, right? But Jason Tatum, what he's doing on a nightly basis is truly spectacular. The athleticism, the strength, the speed, and the ability, skill-wise, to pull off what he's doing in the NBA. I mean, he's going to be a Hall of Fame player when it's all said and done, and these are the individual performances that are going to lead him to that land one day. And I'm so glad that we get to cover him here on Celtics Talk Weekly, because imagine we could be covering a team who doesn't have a superstar of Jason Tatum's caliber, and we don't get to talk about this type of stuff on a nightly basis. The amazing performances that we see out of Jason Tatum.
George and Kawhi in 2017 or 2015 when we dropped.
I know all those. I know NBC Sports Boston was talking to Danny Ainge, and like all I was thinking about was like, remember all like the jersey edits of like Jimmy Butler or Kevin Durant or Paul George or Blake Griffin or
Well, I'll bring everybody back to this one.
Anthony Davis. I remember like
that was
the Pelicans were adamant on wanting Jason Tatum for Anthony Davis. That would have been insane.
Well, I'll bring everybody back to this one. In the summer of 2017, the Knicks and the Celtics discussed a deal for Kristaps Porzingis, because remember that 16-17 team, they were just coming off of an Eastern Conference Finals appearance, and there could have been, we're going to add on to this team with the draft picks in which we have at our hands right now, because we had the Nets picks. We had 3 Nets picks, right? We had Jaylen Brown. We had a Nets pick on the way, which eventually became Jason Tatum, and another Nets pick in which we traded for Kyrie Irving, in which became Colin Sexton. But we had those 3 Nets picks essentially on the table. One of them was already Jaylen Brown after his rookie year, and we didn't really know Jaylen Brown was going to be this level of star after his rookie year. He could have easily been, like I said, I mentioned Robert Covington. I feel like he's kind of the average role player over the last however many years, but at like that level of player, right? And the Knicks and the Celtics discussed a deal surrounding Kristaps Porzingis, potentially adding him on to that 16-17 team, and the deal was discussed around Jaylen Brown and that Nets pick, in which eventually became Jason Tatum. Now, the Celtics, they were not biting at Phil Jackson's last attempt to stay the Knicks GM, but thankfully that was the deal, because you look later on down the line, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Kristaps, they're on the same team anyway, and we didn't have to give up Brown and Tatum to get Kristaps, who we now already have on the same team. So you just think about all of those days, if we traded all of those picks for Paul George, Jimmy Butler, Porzingis, any of those, Carmelo Anthony. Anybody
Any
remember
NBA
Carmelo
player
Anthony
that needed to be
was a
Big
huge
Mello,
rumor
big
at one
Mello thing.
point. All of those guys, Russell Westbrook, even Russell
Derrick
Westbrook was
Rose.
a
Oh yeah,
huge.
Derrick Rose.
All of
That
these
was a big one.
players were in rumors in regards to the Celtics, and we see the Celtics didn't budge. Anthony Davis, too, you guys mentioned. When the Celtics didn't trade for Anthony Davis, it kind of felt like we added a star by keeping Jason Tatum. Now, a lot of people didn't really see it as such then, but I remember it being presented like when Anthony Davis was traded to the Lakers, it was reported that the Celtics were the other team in on him because it was basically the Celtics or the Lakers at that point who had the assets, wanted to go out and get him. And from the Celtics side, it was basically the Celtics weren't budging on Jason Tatum. And the report was pretty much like, yeah, the Celtics feel they have a star in Jason Tatum. And it felt like, okay, we're gonna have our star. It's not right now. We're not gonna be as well off as the Lakers and Anthony Davis right now. But you see today in 2023, 3 years later, I think it's safe to say that the Celtics might be in a better position than Anthony Davis and the Los Angeles Lakers, even though they already won a title. Their run, you could
And
say
an in-season tournament.
it might be it might be, I don't know, their run. They don't win the championship this year. How many more years of that run are they gonna really have under their belt? But Jason Tatum, we talked about him individually tonight, and of course, giving him away would have been a complete disaster for the Celtics if they would have done that back in 2017 or 2018 or any of the years before he broke out. But another player in which they could have easily given away, even maybe last summer, maybe Jaylen Brown leaves somewhere else.
Gets
That's
traded
exactly.
to
I just revealed
Portland.
who it was. Jaylen Brown, 8 of
We
15
get
tonight,
Dame.
18 points, 0 of 5 from 3, but 4 assists, 3 rebounds. He was a plus 20 on the night, so not a gaudy stat line for Jaylen Brown, but I still felt as if he played well. What did you guys think of Jaylen Brown jumping out of the building tonight and really putting an emphatic exclamation point on this game?
I will say that was probably the loudest 18 points I think he's ever had in his career. It just
For
felt,
sure.
I mean, every single bucket, it was an electric play. And like I think he was like 0 of 5 from 3 or something like that, but it didn't matter. He was absolutely dunking on everybody. And headed into this game, he was questionable, and oh, is he going to be okay? Is he going to play all right? And he was fine. And honestly, I'm not going to lie to you, ever since ESPN posted that graphic of like Jaylen Brown like not having any assists or whatever, he had like 43 points and like 0 assists or something like that. I can't remember what the graphic was, but Jaylen Brown commented under that, and it said I can't remember what he said under it, but I remember he commented and he's like, "This is like stupid or whatever."
I think he said you guys don't watch the game.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
guys
yeah.
don't watch the games. You guys are corny.
Yeah,
Something like that.
ever since he commented that, he's basically been playing on another level, it feels like. And I mean, I'm so happy to see it because I knew if he wasn't playing at a high enough level, people were going to be like, "Oh, we just gave him $300 million for nothing." But no, this is why we gave him the money. He is an important part to this team, and people forget that, it feels like. And I don't know, maybe we just like as a whole don't take the Celtic, like I'm not saying we take the Celtics for granted, but like do we actually like I feel like we don't cherish it as much as maybe we should, because it's like we have Jason Tatum, who's a superstar in his own right, Jaylen Brown, who's a star, Kristaps Porzingis, who's a star, Drew Holiday, who's an all-star caliber player, Derek White, who's playing at an all-star caliber level in my opinion, Al Horford, who's still 38 years old and he's still a productive player on the bench, Sam Hauser, who's a shooter who I I mean barely misses, Peyton Pritchard, who when he's on, he's one of the most electrifying players to watch. And it's just one of those things where it's like this team has so much talent, and like I know the only thing that matters is winning a championship, but you know, a couple years from now, it's gonna be like, damn, like that team was insane. And this team is insane, and it's better than pretty much almost every other Celtics team that it feels like we've seen in the most recent, past that I can think of, at least.
I want to piggyback off this for just 1 second, and then I'll kick it to you, Franco. But this is why I absolutely love doing these post game shows and want to do these post game shows, because this is a moment in Celtics history. And just imagine too, if like in NBA history, imagine people can look like everybody who covered the NBA, whether it's from a digital media standpoint or written media, whatever it is, right? From that aspect, all the people in NBA history, you think about all the moments, like the 2008 team. Imagine we're going through that season right now with this squad. Now, I'm not saying it's the exact same circumstances whatsoever, but say a championship happens this season. I mean, imagine we have film from this entire year of us talking after every single game about a championship squad, eventually what turned into a championship level squad. And then it's just like, yeah, we can put our names on that. Like, we covered that team right there. Like, we know what a championship level squad looks like. We were in here every single night, and we can go point back and look at that and watch ourselves in the future and be like, dang, we were really on it every single night in regards to that team. So you, Ian, bringing that up, that's like the main reason I love doing these post game shows, is just preserving that history and being along for the ride in history, and just seeing yourself in the moment here, because we go through history. All of us go through history, and sometimes it's just not preserved, and it's all up here. But yet, us being on this post game, we'll always get to look back and be like, well, what were we thinking during this Celtics run, or what were we thinking after this particular game? What was the vibe at this point in Celtics history? So I love doing these post game shows. But I just wanted to say that from a piggyback off of Ian's comment there. But Franco, you were getting ready to say something before I rudely interrupted. I'm sorry, but sorry. Go ahead there, Franco.
No, you're good. StatTrack will probably have this team losing to the 1971-72 Celtics.
Oh man, should we brief the broadcast about how the NBC Sports Boston claims that the '86 Celtics would have beaten it like 72-73 Celtics?
Yeah, and
Was
they
that the
said,
exact years?
yeah. So like, I think I remember. I don't remember who like the whole tournament was, but I remember the final four teams. The final four teams were like the '65 Celtics versus the '86 Celtics, and then it was the 2008 Celtics versus the '73 Celtics. And if you don't know Celtics history that great, the '73 Celtics are the most winningest team in franchise history. They have the most single season wins by any other Celtics team. And the craziest part was that team was pretty much solo squatted by John Havlicek. And he got hurt right before the playoffs, and the Celtics lost in like the first round of the playoffs that year and didn't win the championship. So it's kind of insane to think about. And like, yeah, you know, they were a great team. They won the most games or whatever. But I'm not going to lie to you. If they saw Ray Allen shoot a three-pointer or Rajon Rondo hit him with a behind-the-back fake pass, I mean, they're going to think it's witchcraft. So I don't really know what metrics they were using. I don't really know if they were using NBA 2K or they were using something else. But I don't agree with their assessment. And I do think the 86 Celtics may actually beat the '08 Celtics. I think you could legitimately have a conversation about those two teams, but when it comes to the '73 Celtics, I don't want to talk about that team. So
It's really, you look at all these teams. I think in NBA history, the efficiency, looking at the effective field goal percentage of the league the last 5 years, just the last 5 years, and even going back a decade, it's been a consistent upward trend of efficiency, which means teams own more access to analytics and data and performance data, to the point where they're putting together more efficient teams, which is why we're seeing crazy performances on nightly basis, right? Like we're seeing more and more of what we haven't seen in the past, because teams understand how to play more efficiently, right? And nowadays, I just feel as if this Celtics team, they could win 41 games this year. And I still feel as if they might still be better than some of the teams, even who won maybe 68 games in the past, just for the simple fact of these guys are bigger, stronger, faster. They shoot the three ball, and they know exactly what play they're trying to get, like what they're trying to run, right? What shot they're trying to get is what I'm trying to get at here. Whereas old teams, their philosophy may not have been built around efficiency. It might have been built around just philosophy of this is what I think. As a coach, this is what I think should happen, and not, no, we shoot the X percentage from this spot on the floor and X percentage from this spot, and we have this player who sucks from here and this player who's great from here. It wasn't built around numbers like that back then. It was built around this is what I think and here's what should happen. But nowadays it's much different. And we see a coach like our coach, Joe Mazzulla. I mean, he's pretty much, he takes the numbers verbatim to the point where maybe sometimes he trusts them a little bit too much, but even if you're trusting them a little bit too much, that's probably better than not trusting them at all. But that's our little tangent. Franco, if you wanted to add on anything in regards to that little NBC Sports Boston graphic that we saw earlier in the game and the presentation that they gave us.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Hold on. What? All right. Yeah, I think the Celtics are looking a lot better than. I think they are going to be capable of maintaining that efficiency throughout the rest of the season, and defending home court seems like a necessity for this team, and I think that's one of their major check marks on the record book this year. I think what this team is capable of going above, I think the rate that they have won and lost games this year is going to be considerably accurate with what the rest of the season is going to look like. Around 20 losses is probably what they are looking at as their goal minimum. And I'm liking the fact that they are able to put together these rotations with Svi and O'Shea Brissett and Seamus coming off the bench. I feel like that is going to be a huge help, and when they need someone to step in and fill in those minutes on nights like this when Al Horford needs a rest. And I heard Brian Scalabrine during the game say if Al Horford and Kristaps were playing tonight, this could be a different game, and who knows what the outcome could have been. And he might have been saying that in a negative outcome, a negative way, meaning that the rotation players gave more than the starting rotation would have tonight.
You mentioned that this could have been a different outcome for the Celtics. I do find it a little bit interesting. The Celtics, they haven't seen their full rotation against this Orlando Magic team yet, either time this season. And I do wonder if we'll see the Orlando Magic later on down the line in the season in more important games. I'm not sure what the regular season schedule looks like in regards to playing them in the regular season, but in regards to the playoffs, however, you see the Magic are a fourth seed right now. Under those circumstances, if they were to win their first round series, and I know we're projecting out a little bit far ahead, right? A lot of things are going to happen, right? The Cleveland Cavaliers, just two bad pieces of injury news today for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Darius Garland, broken jaw, he'll be out a month. Evan Mobley, he'll be out a month and a half. He's undergoing arthroscopic knee surgery. So you just see players, teams come down with
PTSD
weird
with
injuries, weird circumstances, weird situations. We saw Draymond Green. He was just suspended indefinitely. That completely derailed the Warriors season. So talk about the Warriors and Cavs. They were the leaders of the league. Now, asterisk here with the Cavs, right? More LeBron than anything else. But the Warriors and the Cavs were the leaders of the league, and now you see those are the two teams who are falling off at this point in the season. Just coincidentally, that is no real connection there, but other than that, projecting out the Orlando Magic, they're actually a 3 seed. They're tied 3-4 seed with the 76ers right now. And if they were to win their first round series, or if they were even to play, they would be playing the Orlando Magic would be playing the Indiana Pacers right now in the first round if they were the 4th seed.
Series.
And guess what? If we're the 1 seed, right? Playing either the Nets or the Cavaliers or any other team in the play, in the Raptors, the Heat, who knows? Geez, the Miami Heat. But if we win our first round series, we're facing either the Pacers or the Magic. We've both taken L's to this season. And I do find it interesting we haven't had our full rotation against the Magic, and wonder, like you mentioned, Franco, if that would be a negative or a positive later on in time, whether or not they've seen our full core together or not. But jutting back to this game tonight, the Celtics and the Magic, that is, another player I wanted to discuss and bring up, because this player 2 years ago, we were kind of, he was in that category of Lamar Stevens, O'Shea Brissett, Delano Banton. Can this guy just maybe receive a couple more minutes? And we weren't even really talking about him in that regard. It was more of when he did play, it was like, all right, this guy has something, but you never know. And that's Sam Hauser. Sam Hauser tonight. You never saw these type of performances from Sam Hauser last year, 2 years ago. Not of course, but this year.
Well, you know what the difference was
points
tonight, though. He had his family courtside.
Oh yes,
and he had his wife there, so he had to put on like the Jordan Poole performance when you see baddies courtside.
They were all
his wife and his family. So his dad was getting hyped though.
They were all front and center, and they were on camera multiple times too. They on the broadcast. The broadcast made everybody. It made sure everybody knew about Sam Hauser putting on a performance for his parents tonight, because and his lovely significant other, because 11 points. 7 rebounds for Sam Hauser tonight. 4 assists, 4 steals. 4 steals for Sam Hauser. 4 steals, 4 of 8 from the floor, and 3 of 6 from 3. Super efficient performance in 31 minutes. We all knew that Sam Hauser was likely in for a minute's increase with key players out of the lineup tonight. But in those minutes, extra minutes, that is, Sam Hauser showed up and showed out, especially in front of his family. But guys, Sam Hauser, I mean, what are you guys seeing out of Sam Hauser? Not only this game, but this entire season, now being within the Celtics rotation, as some nights he's kind of our 6th man.
Yeah, so this is Rob's guy. Rob's not on the postgame show tonight, but if you go back to probably when we first started doing the postgame shows, he's been talking about Sam Hauser ever since like the start of last season. Sam Hauser's been his guy, and for a good reason. It's kind of crazy to think about, but like Sam Hauser has become, I don't know if we can call him a 3-and-D guy, but like, I mean,
why not?
He's one of the best 3-point shooters in the NBA, and people don't know he's a pretty good defender. Like people don't think he's a good defender. But he's a really good defender. That's why it's Hauser Island, because teams will literally stop their entire offense, like any flow they have, if Sam Hauser's on the block with somebody and that guy thinks he has an advantage over him. But people forget Sam Hauser's 6'7". He can guard his position. He's a tall guy. The fact that he can shoot the way that he does, which, I mean, it feels like every single time he shoots the ball, it's going to go in. It just feels that way. And then when it comes to his defense, that's the thing that's probably kept him in the rotation and has given us more confidence in him, is the fact that he's not a defensive liability on the court. He can guard his position. He can guard, the people that are trying to post up with him. And the 4 steals tonight were kind of evident of that, because he was all over the place on defense. And a lot of those steals came when they were trying to do cross-court passes to try to get to an open guy in the corner, and Sam Hauser just would pick it off because he was he was aware. He's very defensive savvy, and I mean, I'm so happy that we have Sam Hauser because there were reports that before the Celtics signed him, he was going to go to the Miami Heat. So
Oh, he would have been
Man, that
a
would've
villain
been
and
so
ruined it.
yeah. So the fact that Brad Stevens signed him to that extension last year, and he makes like $2 million a year, which is absolutely insane. So
If he was in Miami for the past 2 years, imagine the headlines he would have made against us.
bro, he would have turned into like Mike Miller in Miami or something like that. He would have been at like that level of hype.
I mean, they would have had their Max Strus replacement like that. I mean, they don't. To me, they don't really have. I guess they do. Duncan Robinson. They kind of had. They would have Duncan Robinson, Sam Hauser, Max Strus on the same team at one point, who to me are like kind of maybe all the same player.
person. Yeah,
Like, have
I
you
think
guys ever
Max
seen them
Strus
on
is
the
a
same
little
court
better
on
than
the
this.
same rotation at once?
Just
I think
spot
Max
up
Strus is a
shot.
little different, but still.
That's what we
But
got to say for NBA players who are the same play style. Have you guys ever seen them in the same rotation at once? Because that actually applies.
Yeah, just watch any Miami Heat game from 2020 to 2023, and you'll see pretty much the same player over and over and over again. Or just watch any of the Eastern Conference Finals highlights.
yeah, but Sam Hauser put on a performance tonight in front of the home family. As you said, 4 steals, and those were all just reading passes. And what the Celtics were doing tonight was more of a zone defense, and one of my keys for the game was for the Celtics to play a more active hands defense, get their hands in the lanes of the passers, get their hands in front of the shooters' faces. With the lack of rebounding that they were going to have tonight, with the lack of size, and he was able to contribute his 11 points. 9 of them were 3-pointers, and then his one layup was probably one of the greatest transitions I've seen in a very long time.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I thought he was gonna dunk that. I really thought he was gonna dunk
if he
that
dunked
because
that,
that happened right after the Jaylen Brown dunk on Anthony Black. So I'm like, I don't know, man. Sam Hauser, he looked like he was ready to hit a transition dunk right there. But then you remember he's Sam Hauser and he's not like Jason Tatum. But still, I honestly thought he was gonna go up for the dunk instead of that layup. But that layup was insane to watch too. But
yeah, if he went up for the dunk, I think there could have possibly been an injury, but he kept it safe and finished it with the left hand. And this was kind of a textbook, what like a showcase of what our bench is tonight. I mean, we got to see him and Nemus Keita stepped up huge on the defensive side. The stat sheet doesn't really reflect it, but he only had 3 rebounds, but 3 blocks down low. And his impact was felt on the offensive side down low. And let's see how many of those rebounds were offensive, 2. So he was mainly getting the offensive boards. And I loved seeing O'Shea Brissett 4 for 4 from the field tonight. Had a cranked up 3-pointer and then was finishing on the transition. It was just fast-paced ball, small ball, and just high efficiency shooting.
Yeah, I want to ask you guys about those 3 players. I think you guys might know the 3 players I'm talking about: Lamar Stevens, O'Shea Brissett, and Nemesis Keita. Those guys don't play too often, right? They don't receive too many minutes too often. We see they're very fringe rotation players, not really rotational players at all. And now Lamar Stevens and O'Shea Brissett, we've been calling out maybe to receive a couple more minutes here and there, but Keita, he's more of a situational player when a night like tonight, no Al Horford, no Cornet, no Porzingis, or even if two or one of those guys were to be out, we might see more Kata minutes. But in your guys' opinion, out of those three players, Kata, Lamar Stevens, and O'Shea Brissett, who had the most impressive performance to you guys tonight? Ian, we'll start with you.
I think it's Lamar Stevens, honestly. I mean, I think when you saw the starting five roll out and you saw Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Lamar Stevens, I don't really think you expected what Lamar Stevens gave you tonight. I mean, in the first quarter, he scored like their first 4 points to start the game. They were looking for him early on offense, and he was kind of making the hustle plays. He got into foul trouble, I think, early, and that's why Kata had to come in. But anytime he was on the court, he was making plays. And that's pretty much all you can ask for from a guy who I wouldn't say like came off the couch or anything, but outside of maybe the game against Cleveland, when was the last time he got legitimate minutes in a game this season? So
Dude,
I'm
okay.
honestly the most impressed by Lamar Stevens.
I'm not. Go ahead, Franco. Go ahead.
I was gonna go with Lamar Stevens as well. I mean, we've seen teams run a smaller lineup, and the Lamar Stevens to me seems like a much more athletic version of a Grant Williams. I mean, he seems like a stockier build, 6'7", able to make the plays, and he's a real hustler. And I think him and O'Shea Brissett are gonna fill that off the bench throughout the rest of the season.
Okay, guys, I posted something on Instagram earlier that was completely true about the game of basketball, and it just rings true to this moment in time. I was like, stamina really matters in basketball for success, and being in shape matters. Yeah, definitely. Even being in shape for post game matters because, oh my goodness, I just cramped up so hard my leg, and I tried not to knock down the camera just now so bad. And I don't know. I think it just goes in line with that post earlier. You guys got to stay hydrated, get your nutrients ready for anything you do in life, whether it's post game basketball, anything, work, school. That is. But oh my goodness, that was painful just now. That was painful. Still a little painful. But Lamar Stevens, O'Shea Brissett, and Nemesis Kata tonight. I believe Lamar Stevens coming in and starting. That is always something that is very nerve wracking for a player who doesn't start because that's their big moment, right? Even if you're I don't think Lamar Stevens is going to see more opportunities to start. It's not as if, okay, Lamar, this is your opportunity. We'll see. We're going to see if you're going to be a starter moving forward. It wasn't that
You
kind of
knock out
opportunity,
Al
right?
Horford out of the rotation.
But in terms of rotational minutes, it's a huge opportunity. And of course, just being in the spotlight we're going to see these guys in the Hall of Fame. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, they're Hall of Fame level of players. And to be playing alongside them, starting alongside them, that's a pressurized event. And Lamar Stevens showed up and showed out within his role next to those guys and starting at center tonight for the Celtics. Now, of course, he wasn't a traditional center or anything like that, but he took the fifth spot in the starting lineup for what would traditionally be the center spot. And he was 3 of 7 on the night, 8 points, 3 rebounds. And those other guys too. Kata, he was 2 of 3, 6 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal. And I believe also, 3 blocks on the night in 18 minutes. And then going down to O'Shea Brissett, 4 of 4 on the night, 11 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist for Brissett. So all 3 of those guys, I know I asked the question who was the most impressive, and that's always a hard question when all 3 guys play up to and above their standards like these 3 guys did tonight. But looking at the rest of the Celtics roster, we could talk about Derek White and Drew Holiday, although they're fairly consistent on both ends of the floor. Derek White poured in 19 points tonight, 7 of 15 from the floor, 3 of 7. Drew Holiday only 2 of 7 on that end of the floor, only 6 points, but I still felt as if Drew Holiday's impact defensively was there, and you saw a lot of the shots that he usually makes. Peyton Pritchard was making up for those misses, and I thought where some of where Drew Holiday was lacking, Peyton Pritchard was able to pick up the slack just a little bit coming off the bench. But we pretty well covered every player on the Celtics. Looking at the other end, to the other end of the spectrum here for the Orlando Magic, they're going to be a team we're going to see in the future. Like I said, if they win their first round series, if the NBA standings just play out as they do today, which we all know is likely not going to happen whatsoever. However, if it were to play out today and the Orlando Magic won their first round series, we would see them in the playoffs. And some of these players, Boncaro, Franz Wagner, Suggs, Anthony Black, Jalen Suggs, it looked like he may have broke his hand earlier in the game tonight, and the way he fell on it, I thought that was going to be a Hayward situation. I thought he was really like when he came up from when he fell on his hand, I believe he was going to hold up something that looked ungodly, and thank goodness that wasn't the case, and he was able to come back into the game. I wonder if that injury is something that he'll have to deal with long term or not, because he was in and out of the game with it
Although
and
I'm not
not
gonna
fully
lie though,
healthy.
anytime he was shooting the ball, I think whatever happened, I think fixed his jump shot. Because I don't know what happened. I don't think he missed a 3-pointer after he hurt his wrist.
He was on the night 7 of 12, 5 of 9 from three, 19 points. So we talk about the free throws, folks, right?
He is right-handed, so he hurt his left hand. So I mean, it could have been a lot worse.
We talk about the free throws, though, with players, just pointing this out here. Jalen Suggs was 7 of 12, 5 of 9. You look at that and go, he's probably 5 threes, 7 made shots. He should probably have over 20 points today. 19 points because he had no free throw attempts on the night whatsoever. That's what can sometimes separate stars from your role players, is just simply those free throw attempts. If you see Jalen Suggs, if he takes even 6 free throw attempts, that's 25 points tonight. If he's 6 of 6 from the line, it's a much different stat line than, say, 19 points. But I felt as if most of the Magic roster struggled against the Celtics. Did you guys feel the same way about this game at the end, where it just never felt like the Magic got their rhythm under them the same way they did on Black Friday a couple weeks ago?
They stopped Mo Wagner tonight. Only held him to 2 points.
Yeah, he was quiet. Finally.
But I don't think there's a single player on the Orlando Magic that we wouldn't take as a depth piece on the Celtics roster. I mean, they're all very complementary to each other and how they play. I mean, it just never seemed like they were able to keep up with the pace that the Celtics were playing at. I mean, Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner are usually people that we see carry the team in scoring, but there wasn't a single Orlando Magic player tonight that broke 20.
Yeah, and they were 11 of 31 on the night. Boncaro and Franz Wagner were. So typical players you see are very impactful for the Magic, not so impactful for them tonight. And I don't know whether or not, both factors, right? You chalk it up to they're on the road and they're facing a great Celtics defense who was able to put them in a position of adversity tonight to where they couldn't really come back. But as we end our post-game segment here, as we're reaching the end, the Celtics, they now move to 13-0. 13-0. That's incredible, folks. 13-0 at home on the season, 19-5 now on the year after beating the Orlando Magic 128-111. But guys, as we're reaching the end of our segment here, your guys' final thoughts. Ian, we'll go with you first on tonight's Celtics win over the Orlando Magic.
I'm saying the last time the Celtics started 12-0 or better at home was 2008. So, not saying anything, but
You know, if we're gonna hang that banner, for
I'm
beating the
saying.
Magic tonight, if we're gonna hang that banner, might as well go for another one this season.
Might as well. Might as
Yep.
well.
Might as well.
Beating the Magic again tomorrow or on Sunday. Because
Yes,
that's
and I'm glad you mentioned that, Franco, because the Celtics do have another matchup coming with the Magic on Sunday. That one should be very interesting indeed. Celtics, we thought, against the Cleveland Cavaliers and Orlando Magic, maybe one of these two teams, because of those back-to-backs, maybe they could be handing the Boston Celtics their first home loss of the season. However, through 3 games thus far, we took care of the Cleveland Cavaliers. We took care of game 1 against the Orlando Magic. Now, Sunday, Celtics, before they go on the road for their West Coast road trip, one more chance to add another victory on top of their already piled home record. Now 13-0 at home. They'll be going for 14-0 Sunday at the TD Garden against the Orlando Magic. We'll have your coverage here on the Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show Sunday after the buzzer. That game, I believe, is in the afternoon. I don't have the exact time at this moment in time. However, we will be on here after the game ends. And for tonight's show, I'm your host, Seamus Zarlingo, aka Celtics Every Day. Below me here is Franco, and to the side of me is Ian. Go hit us up on social media, whether it's Instagram, TikTok. You see our usernames down there below in the ticker. And that's all we got for you guys tonight. And signing off, as I always say here, go Celtics.